Figured I'd do an LEC tier list now. Since I competed in the league, I can give some insight, right? I can also make commentary on where we would maybe land ourselves if we did make playoffs. Obviously, we didn't make playoffs, our fault, all that jazz. But I do think that we were getting better and better. And in the end, you know, some teams with the same amount of wins as us went through and so forth. And, the system that LEC created doesn't reward like ramping up and getting better over time. You know, if you lost games in the beginning, then you pay the price, which we did, right? 0-4. But we did ramp up, and I feel like we got better and better. So let's talk about the number one contenders. So obviously it's this squad right here. This is the squad of number one contenders, and maybe you can even throw Navi in there. Let's start with G2. I think a big problem that G2 is facing is their drafting. I feel like in games they have good drafts. I feel like they are playing really, really well. But I think a big struggle point of theirs is that they haven't figured out how they want to incorporate Broken Blade to the team. And at the same time, they have a bot lane that is picking early in drafts and are not using, you know, like if you have a top laner that is playing primarily tanks and wants to force tanks in most games, then I think also at the same time, you need to be able to counter-pick bot lane and be a little bit more flexible. And I feel like Labrov and Hansama should be capable of doing so. But for some reason on stage, they aren't. I feel like they have had a hard time of transferring their strengths. Because look at this, for example. They have Azir, Orianna, God bless, caps. If you put caps on Orianna, Azir, Ryze, you should be happy. I don't have an issue with that. That's what the meta is at. Now we pick Ambessa as a flex. Ezreal Pantheon comes through, right? And they are blinding Ezreal. They got buffed on the patch, which is okay. But they pick Pantheon as well, which is just a Scumon classic. Aphelios comes through. They ban Braum, Nico. Thresh gets banned. Nautilus, Leona trade. And then Renekton blind. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like G2 to me. I feel like they need to find ways to pick more scaling in their AD carry position. And I think they need to be the ones picking the tanks in top, like Sion here, for example. They just didn't want to do so because Ambessa Flex was showing, which I understand that maybe, just maybe, you should change up your bans, you know? Because Kaiser ban I felt was kind of strange here, especially after, you know, in terms of what Navi had as priors. Like with Nico here, they pick Caitlyn, and I think they should pick Kaiser here, for example. I don't know. G2's in a strange place. I just can't... I don't see the vision for how they are drafting, you know? Like, this draft makes a lot more sense to me. This is something that they could play, but maybe they're in a state of mind where they're preparing for failures too, right? Because this is something they can't replicate every game. G2 were a little bit unsafe to make playoffs, but knowing they played against Fnatic, I think they were cool. I do think that G2 is a lot better than they've shown so far. I do feel like their draft prep is what is sometimes holding them back. Strong lane matchups into tank top with scaling jungle. I feel like they should take a page out of the Navi book. If G2 draft more like Navi, I think that they will be a top contender. Navi have a very clear recipe of picking a flex champ, flexing that champ till 5, and then finding value with a good tank, and then having scaling in the jungle position, and then playing it by ear like that, you know? I think that's a very good working recipe that I think that G2 could replicate. So I think G2 is definitely up there, but I'm going to rank them as we talk about them more. KC, outside of the game they played against Team Heretics, you know, I do think that KC had showed that they had very strong laning. Sometimes I feel like Busio is inconsistent with what he offers in the game. I remember, for example, Busio, when he played against Vitality, like, this game was a very bad game from them, and they picked Severon last year into Ezreal Karma, which makes no sense in my opinion. Here I think they got outdrafted. Happens. KC got outdrafted against KC too, right? I mean, Team Heretics too. With that game where they picked Varus, Jace, Nico, LeBlanc into Jhin, Nautilus, Rumble. Like, that's really, really just unplayable, you know? That's not something that you can play at all. Nevertheless, happened before too, I think here as well. They're going into 4-5 with their bot lane, and they're freestyling it. I just think that in terms of what is like the potential problem here for KC is that I'm not so sure if they're going to be able to draft well in Fearless, and at the same time, I think that Busio's form is kind of on and off. But I think Yahoo has been really, really good. I think Kiao's been good. I think Yike has been insane. I think Kana's insane. Kalista has been really good. Busio has had great games. I think the mechanical of ceiling of this team is higher than any other team, and they showed that in a lot of the team fights that they get in. I think a lot of the games in LEC have been decided in the team fight department, and I think that's where KC is better than everybody right now, because mechanically they're just really, really insane, which makes them very dangerous in my opinion. I think Yike also offers them a lot of stability in the game, which is super important, and I do think that the meta is in a very good place for Kana, because it's isolated 1v1s, and Kana is really good at that. MKOI. I think MKOI as a team, I've said this, but I can really easily imagine MKOI winning. I think MKOI, their biggest issue is that I do think that Jojopyun is quite inconsistent as a player, but I think that something that is really, really good for MKOI, in my opinion, is the fact that their bot lane is laning better than ever together. They play so much duo queue. I saw this in my research. Like, they play so much duo queue, Alvaro and Supa, and I feel like it's has been very rewarding to them. Let me just pull up Alvaro. You know, Alvaro, and then you pull up their games, and then look how much they're duo queuing, you know? Like, this is a big volume of games, and we can really see the benefit of that. In the past, MKOI's lane facing bot was quite inconsistent and sometimes a problem, but I do think that now, with them being better laners, it also allows them to play a lot more ranged supports. You can see his match history, the Bard, the Nico, the Nami, the Thresh even. These are things that they have actively improved on, and I really like their last game that they played against Navi, for example, when they bust out the Kokinami into the Nico Shoin. They didn't pick Kate when they should have picked Kai'Sa, but still, the fact that they've expanded on this is a very, very good sign. I like this a lot. I think that MKOI, in terms of how their jungle plays, I do think that Yike, Skumond, Elioya are like all really, really insanely good, but Elioya is so smart at pathing to make sure that everyone's good in the game. And I think that a big plus for MKOI is the big shift up in the meta that should come. I think the fact that Ahri is in a very strong state is a very massive plus for Jojopyun. He was never a big Orianna player, and I think that, you know, the phase rush nerf is a plus for him. I think that the meta isn't, like, if meta is Orianna Azir, I think Jojopyun is a weaker player. But I do think that Talia, Ahri, that direction is a lot better for him. Anything that can offer CC and fight, I think this is his biggest strength, because I do think that his synergy with jungle and support is quite high, but I do think that he misplays some of the mage matchups and plays too overly aggressive, which I do think that the meta shift is going to be beneficial for him. Also, the feel is going to be beneficial for him. So I do think MKOI can be very dangerous, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all. Na'Vi, I do think that Na'Vi is the team that figured out how they want to play the fastest. I think they had a very good read on the meta, and what to play. I think that in terms of their structure in the game, I think Rylek has been very impressive. Poby has been very sharp in the mage matchups. I do think, though, that Navi's advantages are going to become less over time as these three teams ramp up. Na'Vi, respect to, of course, the coaching staff, they figured out the recipe really early. Like, the way they drafted and their vision of the game was very clear, very fast. Like, they got the flex jungler in Ambessa and Aatrox, flex that till 5 to get a good top lane matchup, put Mainter on a tank, carry jungle, and pick support 3-4. I think this is really, really good, bro. Really, really good. I think that Poby's biggest strength right now is that he's really mastered Azir, Orianna, Talia, and Ryze. Those 4 champions he's very dangerous on, and I wonder now, as Fearless comes through and they miss some of these flex champs, and you can ban out some of these flex champs, how will the layers of the onion peel away? That is going to be the biggest challenge of Na'Vi, because I do think that their team play makes them a stronger sum than you know, their parts, and at the same time they figured out how to draft very, very early, which is, of course, a very strong thing. But I do still think, in terms of player quality and potential ceiling, these 3 teams have just shown more in the past that makes me feel a lot more confident about it. Because I do think that if Na'Vi don't have the same, like, advantage, draft-wise and prep-wise in terms of figuring out the recipe early. I do think that these teams just have a higher ceiling right now. But still, very impressed with Rylek. I think that, Paros is also looking really good. I think that this whole team is constructed and is a very successful project. I really, really enjoy it. Like Navi, The Rock, I'm a super big fan. I just still think if I have to call out a top contender, these three guys are just way easier for me to see because of the ceiling of some of the decision making, the ceilings of some of their team fight play has just been higher, even though they have been like quite inconsistent because some parts of their team is like underperforming and the meta is not right for them. So still, Navi, still a dark horse. If they can keep that level of prep up and they can find ways in Fearless to maintain that recipe, I do think that this is a team that is very smart. So respect to Navi. But I do think that if drafts are even or they don't have like a draft advantage, I don't think that they are on the same level. Next team in mind is Vitality. I think Vitality is a team that is almost the opposite of Navi in a sense. I think that mechanically Vitality, opposite in terms of what the strengths and the weaknesses are, I think Vitality is a team that early game and mid game can scrap with the best. I think it's a very good position to be in if you're Vitality and your biggest issue is that you're throwing games. It just means that you had the ball in the first place. And that's a very good position to be in. They throw a lot of games, but still, I think that they are the ones that are actively fighting the most, taking chances the most, and they shoot from the hip. And I do think that they are very good at finding, angles. And while at the same time, they might fuck some angles up, the way they play will make them really get better faster and faster than other people. I think Naknako, very happy. Same as Kana, very happy with the meta changes. I think Naknako is a super talent, really strong player. I think Humanoid dies on side sometimes when he plays too fast, and I think this is something that people can have a read on. Both Kazi and Humanoid play very, very fast. Their jungle and super play fast too, but sometimes they're off sync, and that's where they lose some traction. But I think Vitality has good game vision, and I think that they are very good at agreeing on the same play. Like when a fight happens, everyone's involved, and I think that's a massive strength, and I think mechanically Vitality is quite good. I think Navi, though, is more consistent with how they play macro and how they draft, and I think there's a very clear red line there, but Vitality has the strength of being able to scrap against the best. So they have less consistency than Navi. Navi is a bit more consistent, but usually when you look at a team where you want them to be a dark horse, you want to see that mechanical ceiling shine through and that level of craziness to take game advantages and gold advantage against the best in the league, I really think that Vitality, probably as a dark horse, is more fitting than Navi. The next teams, I think that, in terms of what the other teams offer, we have two more teams in playoffs. In it for the fun of it, show me more. Show me more, I'll call it instead. Show me more. I think GX, this team lives and dies by how well Jackies is performing, and I do think that Jackies is getting better. Jackies is a player that I was really excited by because I watched him in Champions Queue. His first split was very explosive with the Zeri mid, and he was carrying games. But it just seems like whenever Jackies is performing good, his team is not performing good, and when his team is performing good, Jackies is performing worse. It's as if he gets motivated by how shit his team plays, and the better they get, the worse he gets somehow, in a weird way. It just seems like GX can't perform all at the same time somehow. I feel like something is always missing. And I do think that GX, Noah and Jun, exciting players, but I think also Noah and Jun, they figured out how to draft around bot lane very early on. They were like Caitlyn Lee's, Nico. They had very good like draft angles to play through their matchup. But I do think that Noah and Jun, when they don't get lane advantages, they're going to be weaker than other bot lanes in terms of connecting to the game and doing their part in the game. I think Noah, Jun are very like win lane Andes in a sense. And I do think that GX is a little bit more one-dimensional than some of the other teams. So that's where I'm at, I think that this team, if Jackies finds a high and they can keep drafting these winning bot lanes, and Isma finds like dynamic, early game setups that gives them some form of advantages. I do think GX can be very dangerous, but I do think that the top 8 is quite stacked in terms of the potential of the teams. So shout out to all the teams. Like this is there's no shame. I feel like there's a lot of strength here across the board. Team Heretics, definitely, as a team that deserves a lot more praise. We took a lot of the attention away from, of course, everything that happened in the league due to us being close to making playoffs. But Team Heretics had quite the run. They won some very big games. They won against KC. They won against, of course, they won against Fnatic. They had a run. They had the miracle run of their own. They managed to get to 6 wins. They had some cheeky draft tricks like the Rumble Flex. And, I do think that Team Heretics, in terms of their bot lane and their jungle, I think these are the things that stand out to me. I just think that Seren and Trayson need more experience. I think still I see some flaws in their gameplay, but that's okay. It's a rookie split, really good. I think that Shio, Stand, and Ice have done a lot of work to push this team over the finish line. But I do think now, as the best of 3 start, it's going to be a lot trickier. A lot trickier, So that's it, You might ask me, where would I put Los Ratones? I feel like we would... sorry, there's Fnatic as well. Fnatic, I feel like we would land somewhere here, like here, on the tier list. I think we would have to show more, but we're on a good path. Definitely we're on a good path. I think that we would end up somewhere here, and then maybe in a best of 3 against Na'Vi, Vitality, this could be close. I think that the top 3 teams would be tough for us to break, but we would end up somewhere here, pretty much, in my mind. I think that Team Heretics and Fnatic, with our current form, I think we could beat. But obviously, best of 3s is a different world. I'm just guesstimating here, The high end, super high end would be here, but it would rely on Vitality and Na'Vi running out of steam. And then the low end, I think we would end up here, That's where I'm at, What else can we add about LEC? Fnatic. Fnatic has been very, very disappointing. They took a win off of GX and Na'Vi, but the Na'Vi win that they took was a 10k gold throw from a Na'Vi. So Fnatic could have been in a situation where they only had 4 wins because a lot of the wins they got were very cheap and early on against us and KCB and, GX. I don't want to come across as salty, but Fnatic's level is not good right now. And I think it kind of falls on, their early lane phase bot is inconsistent. Their drafting around AD is weak. I don't like it. I think that they're very predictable in terms of how they play around jungle, and Vladi's form is not good. I think Imperius as a rookie is not super interesting, and their Fnatic has a lot to work on, a lot to work on. I think that Fnatic looks like the weakest team in playoffs by far, based on what we've seen. And I think Team Heretics against Fnatic, that's a matchup that they would love to see, Team Heretics. If we look at the bracket, we just pull up the bracket. Versus playoffs. Pull up the bracket. In terms of the matchups, KC should win, G2 should win, Na'Vi should win. This one is a banger, but I actually will lean towards MKOI. If I had to pick, if gun to my head, I have to predict the winner. My gut is telling me MKOI is going to win the split. I just think the way they play with jungle support is so good. And I just think that Jojo is going to bounce back, bro. I just think Jojo is going to bounce back. If Jojo plays as he did in regular split, then yeah, my prediction is complete ass. But I have this gut feeling that he's going to bounce back. I don't know. Something in my gut tells me Jojo is going to just play Ahri, play playmakers. He's going to be good, I really feel like they are going to... I feel like MKOI is going to win the split. That's my prediction, bro. MKOI is going to win the split. I think MKOI or G2, pretty much. It's just MKOI or G2. KC, I just don't trust how they draft, bro. I don't trust how they draft. And maybe that's the wrong call. They were pretty safe in playoffs or whatever, They won the most amount of BO1s. I just don't trust how they draft, bro. I just don't trust how they draft. And if they figure out that and Busio's in good form, they can easily win too, for sure. This is gonna be a really fun race, really fun race. I'm not gonna be streaming it because I don't have co-streaming, and I'm not gonna ask, bro. Fuck that shit. Yeah. And that's it for the LEC rundown. Post that shit on YouTube.